Hello everybody, once again, this is going to be another review for the Harrowing. It's a module from Pathfinder for 9th level, so where you start out, and by the time you end up with it, I think you'll probably be around 11th level or so, possibly 12th, depending on any sort of adjustments that you make or additional experience that are you feel may be awarded to them. So I had mentioned using this module in one of my other videos with Jade Regent, where I had the NPCs of Jade Regent play this module. So if you're playing Jade Regent, this is a perfect module to introduce if you want the advice that I had given on that. As a standalone, it's remarkably very good. The reviews on it on the Paizo boards are very high, 4 or 5 stars. And exactly what the Harrowing is, basically, if you know anything about a Harrow Deck, a fortune teller's deck of cards, it's something it's quite well known in the Varsian culture, and you, if you've ever done it before, then you probably used either a deck of cards or picked up a Harrow Deck. And what's unique about the module is that you'll find all this type of artwork actually fleshed out into life, where you encounter these creatures. They have their own unique stories, and your players can interact with them in many different types of ways. You will see exactly everything that looks like this, from the Night Peddler, which is known as the Foreign Trader, even events like the Avalanche, the Sickness, the Keep. You even see something like that. So this is a Wonderland type of theme, so it would break up any linearity you may be currently running. There's a kind of a sandbox-like feel to it, even though there is a path you generally follow along. And what this basically is just a pocket dimension sort of plane exploration, where you set up the point for where they're all spirited away, either with the details provided in the very beginning of the book, or you can make your own up like I did, where I just introduced the Harrow Deck that I came across. Was the tool, the portal that took them through there. Very old deck, and they somehow unlocked its secrets and were whisked away. And you'll come across a lot of these beings known as conspirators, or for the most part they're all known as storykin. Stories fleshed out and given a form, a personality, a certain path that they follow based on that story. They can't really go beyond that story for how they were, the myths or legends or whispers surrounding that story. They sort of work within that framework, as they're kind of programmed to just live through those storied events over and over again, where even if they do somehow achieve some sort of awareness, they'll just get brought back in to recycle the story once again, either through just vague memory, loss of memory, or just something pulls them back into it. But they are fated to replay their stories over and over again. So you'll come across lots of these storykin like this, and you have the option to deal with it any way you want. A lot of them are presented more as NPCs, other ones as sort of lesser bosses before the final boss, or just encounters. You may, through dialogues and such, you may even pick up NPCs or allies while you're in this realm. If you don't have the Harrow Deck to use, you can use a deck of cards. Even in the book provide a card list for what each one represents. But what is the significance of this? Well, there are certain events or people that they may come across, and if they can recognize the features of how they look, or the details or description surrounding it, they have the ability to kind of alter the reality of that realm and receive a boon in place of their recognition of what their story is and such. Such as like bonuses to like certain skill checks or attack rolls and things like that, or certain abilities may be negated. I don't want to go too much into like the whole spoilers and such, just in case, you know, you may have a player that, you know, saw this video and recommended it to you. So just kind of going through it some more, not giving everything away, but well, I gotta talk a little bit about it anyway, because there's no way around it without making this video completely vague and not giving you any helpful advice. So I'll turn this more so over now to the GM side of it. You have two NPCs that I kind of used as I give them like a choice to the player characters as to which one they decide they may want to befriend, align with, and get some help from, or, you know, receive help or such, or give it. Those two people. One is a Paladin, and the other one is the Prince of Rabbits, some sort of fey-like creature. With the rabbit, I played them very mischievous, but chivalrous, and sort of grew the ire of the player characters. And I kind of put into that light where the Feykin would not be the one that they would really want to sort of align with, just because it would annoy the hell out of them, such as with, you know, Fey, the nature of their sort of whimsical sort of mystery. So I kind of didn't want them to pick that right away, so I just kind of irritated the hell out of them to where they wanted to kill the rabbit. But things don't really die here, and if they do, they kind of turn into these motes of light and go back to a sort of chamber where they can be reformed again after so many days. So they have the ability to come back. The other character was the Paladin that I've mentioned. With him, there's a way that you can run him where he's on this ever-seeking quest. He's known as Algon the Ever-Seeking, and through his long storied life that has spanned on thousands of years perhaps, since every creature in this realm does not age, it's ageless, fated to play out their stories once again. he believed that he could only finish this mission that he was on. And so, slaughtering things that got in his way, any acts that he conceived that were immoral, he thought that in the end he would have to beg for his mercy, but there should be no harm in anything from barring him from his holy quest. So that was a unique aspect to that character, and that's not really known to the player characters. So since, you know, the title of Paladin, the player characters flock to him as this beacon of hope, of guide, or however they perhaps see him, but it would be in a good light. But over time they would see that eventually his rigid sort of morals are just sort of spinning, and he will do anything necessary to pursue his quest, and those that stand in his way he will not hesitate in the slightest. And as the player characters start to see that and how he interacts and such, that should instill some sort of frightened and sort of fear or worry, some sort of unsettled disgust. So you can, you know, use that however you want. And he may even forget who they are after a while, and then just go out attacking them, just because he's going back into his sort of storied events of what he has to do and such. So as though they have short-term memory loss, so you can play like that as well. So I thought those two characters were very unique. You'll see more in this module as well, and you can decide to make those more of a featured NPC, to where they align with the group or not. But I was going to strictly run this as just a Wonderland sort of a theme. Things being very vibrant, very different. But I noticed with my group, as they were exploring this and encountering people, they didn't really get the attachment that they were people, and they consider them more as just a sort of construct, sort of programmed image. And it got very dark. I sensed this was their time to kind of shy away from staying their hand, maybe kind of trickling to the edges of their alignment to push their character like they've never done before, to see where it would take them. So I kind of played upon that, where I had this, their moral compass was, the direction was never pointed in one way. So that added a lot of depth to it. So I just kind of added more flavor to that. And you'll see as if you choose to use this one, as you go along, there's different landscapes, different themes. Each of the characters in here are very unique. They have a story that you can identify with. You can easily build upon that. And really, each sort of event, I would call them events, there's always some sort of decision that they have to make. Plots that could entwine. But let's see what else I got here. But as you're going through to complete this quest to try and get out of this realm that they seem to be trapped in, they soon realize that the Paladin is not quite all there. And they eventually tied him up and left him in this building and continued on. I'm surprised they didn't mercy kill him or something like that, but they chose not to do that. And as usual, whenever I hear one of my players say something that really intrigued them, something they were very excited by, things that they wish they could have seen, or even just when they just try to call things out as, I think that's what's going to happen next, or wouldn't this be cool if this actually happened, do you guys think this is going to happen? When I can hear that sort of clamor, that sort of excited, like enthusiasm for like the next game, that sort of gives me that direction to where if I need to make changes or not. And the one big change that kind of prompted me was when they said, just based on his story and with the Paladin and how everything he does, he considers it's for the better, because in the end it's for the ultimate goal, and by that time he can then atone for his sins or face his final judgment. So what I did, based on what I heard, was that they were really excited to see if he became a anti-Paladin. And really, you don't come across, I haven't come across anything with a build like that in the games that I've run. I've always heard of other people that have had an anti-Paladin, or people that have played them. So I never had the opportunity to do that, and I could sense the sort of draw the attention to that, the excitement to that. So I took his stats, since he was pretty much out of the game, since he was tied up and such. Maybe he could come back later, but groups always love those reoccurring villains, and he was clearly labeled as a villain at that point. So it's very easy. Well, for me it was very easy just to swap him out as such and such level of a Paladin directly over to anti-Paladin. And to kind of explain how he went like that, as the group kind of went on their quest, he had a quest of his own. And as far as just kind of explaining some of that, what sort of references did I use to build upon that story, because this is a story that you're completely mangling, deconstructing, and manifesting a completely new one, sort of, or maybe the origins of how the story started. What I kind of did was I used sort of a Matrix sort of theme with, you know, the whole Mr. Anderson, Mr. Smith thing. So I took the Mr. Smith and I used that sort of persona on him. And I kind of changed the powers of the conspirators to where it says in the book that if they are vanquished, killed, they don't really die. They turn into these motes of light, float away. Eventually they wind up at this place where they are remolded, reformed by someone who can sort of, it's like the architect of this realm. And one unique thing I introduced, sort of in this Matrix kind of style, where all that time that he spent sitting there waiting, and eventually he got free. He didn't know where they were. He knew where they were going to go, which in the story, or in the module, you have to keep going to all these conspirators to collect their token. You need all these tokens to kind of find your way out. So he knew he had to go and find where the next one would be, so he could meet up with them and have his revenge against them, since they barred his holy quest. So he became darker, more sinister on his way, because he knew he had to evolve so that he could finish what he strived for throughout his entire life. So along the way he finally met a conspirator, and instead of allowing it to live or to hear its pleas, its mewling wails, he would destroy it, but had this urge to devour it, and felt sated by that momentarily, and became aware of powers. Each of the conspirators have some sort of ability, so I had him where it was kind of unbeknownst. But if the conspirators were never really together except for one main event in the very beginning, and they all went their own little ways, well, if they had stayed around long enough, they would have known the sort of power that resided within each one, and then that power could be taken in the same fashion that they had taken that power before, which was by devouring the source of that power. So I replayed upon that again, had the Paladin devour the conspirator, one of the ones that are most powerful, the architect, the person that reforms the bodies, and therefore he had the power to reform himself, and that's where the anti-Paladin comes in. And just sort of that whole Matrix kind of a dark theme there. I read off some of these lines to my players. Algon the Ever-Seeking. I have broken most of my holy oaths in pursuit of the Patchwork Lord. The nature of my righteous quest forgives any infraction, no matter how immoral the act. Remember that, for I will bring upon you a longing torment that an inflamed imagination cannot devise. Your treachery will not be forgotten, princess. I should thank you for your deception, for I now have greater purpose and an even greater vengeance. That's one little note I read out there to sort of intrigue the group. I got caught with a little bit of monologuing when they did meet up with them. I even sort of made little excerpts from the game as sort of like a prequel to events. One such story I wrote here, at least I can share this with you, just because I tried to add some flair to this, some creativity to where you kind of built upon the game to give it a more impressionable experience. So this one, the Broden figure emerged from the forest line of the Briar, only to be shadowed by the Colossus from above. The Colossus being the walk-in keep, as I showed you in that card. And I wrote the story as a sort of a dialogue here, so here's the next part. I assure you the Outlanders are there. I have generously resupplied you with my best wares and imparted all of my traveled lore, short of giving you my burden from the Creator. And Algon says, I acknowledge you have fulfilled your agreement completely, Tinkerer. Tinkerer, that should be a sign of who the next conspirator is, of who he has, since he found this power, and now he's going through and collecting those that he can, that the PCs have not gotten to yet. Or maybe the PCs did get to them, vanquished them, and he's at the spot where he needs to be to gather their motes of light, reform them, and then do what he needs to get information, and then to get their power as well. An insufferable amount of time had passed, and still the repulsive sneer was ever present, but lacking was the forthcoming assurance. And the Tinker says, with the Weaver's caress now within your control, Then what stays your hand? Reform me so I may fix what those harbingers have wrought upon our painted realm. You can recreate this land to a more befitting one. Imagine the new stories that would flourish from the ebb and wakes of creation. Of course, Algon. He stared skyward at the retreating fortress. Mild amusement could be seen upon the beginning of a gruesome grin as he spoke. You are still hiding something from me, little one. And the Tinkerer says, if you think to kill me, then you are more blinded with hatred than Zasrian ever was. I see it now, a thin veneer of mocking civility painted over a thick layer of misguided anger, which is just a mask for a savage glee at the excuse to abandon all reason. To wield the power of a conspirator is no small task and truly unbefitting of one who can't adhere to a code and, more importantly, maintain the balance. Algon says, a blindness of violence? Then allow me to open your eyes with fear. With that, Algon dropped the wax grub from his motherly embrace to watch the animated wax gob roll near the base of a scorched tree. He brought his foot down upon the unfinished storykin with as much force as to rent a hole through the plane itself. Algon kneeled before the waxed husk, began to eat what little remained. So that's just a little bit of insight into how I kind of built upon the story, and more of a Mr. Smith sort of persona that the Paladin took to become a anti-Paladin. And to my module here. So not only do they get to face the main bad guy of this module, but then they get to face him again. What the player characters did, there was one instance in this module where they come upon this Tinkerer who is sort of in charge of controlling the sky, the clouds, the sort of atmosphere-like controls of this painted realm, the environmental controls. And what do? Let's break the damn thing, just for the hell of it. So I do. So what happens? They stop the sun's trajectory over its orbit over the painted realm. 400 or so feet up, the sun is kind of sort of mounted by a mechanical sort of rod that sort of moves it across. And well, they broke the gears and cogs for that, so that just stopped. And there's an event in this book that explains what happens when there's a eclipse and such. But there's lots of different events in this module. Even though there's a sandbox nature to it, and then there's also a railroad sort of like path for them. But they can go any which way on that path. They can veer off of it, given that sandbox nature, as I explained. But they do key sequences of things in here on to how they kind of explore the environment, or things that they touch and such. There's these events that happen that can kind of change the course of how they go. But there's a lot of opportunity here to really create upon this. If you want to expand upon it, what I even did as like a precursor to this module, as they had that deck, certain storykin would kind of manifest out of their realm, unbeknownst to them, as sort of the ebb and wakes of power sort of kind of converged and crossed barriers momentarily. So as they were in, since I'm doing the Jade Regent campaign, and I introduced the module as a sort of adventure for the NPCs to do, to break up the whole sort of continuity of the main group. As they're kind of going through the tundra of this wintry north, these storykin just kind of appear here and there, either during their sleep, whereas I had the rabbit wake up upon the burly dwarf and cut off part of his beard and claimed it as a sort of trophy and ran around the camp. Eventually they caught up to him, but they eventually were so thrilled by how he looked and how cool he was and his presence and the way he spoke, which is very regal, sort of chivalrous, sort of knightly bravado. Eventually I quickly tormented them with my trophy and spurn, sort of scorn, sort of backlash of hatred where they tried to strike me down. And before I knew what happened, they captured the rabbit, took him back to the camp, and surprisingly he started to melt like he was made of wax. You'll eventually see that they are kind of wax-like when they finally lose the resounding force that their story that holds them together. So when they're outside of the painted realm, momentarily their bodies don't stay like that for long, and they eventually melt. So I sort of had that as sort of like clues, sort of hints as to why is this happening, and then of course they look towards the deck, maybe they see the picture of the rabbit prints in here, and then that kind of gives them a aha moment to where they kind of explore the magical properties that lay dormant or semi-dormant in this deck. So you can introduce it that way. That's how I did it, but they already provide a location for how this takes place. This took about a month and a half or so to complete, and I was playing once a week. So I think it was a month. It was probably 2 months, but I can't keep track of time because I got so much stuff going on with Jade Regent, and then the other kind of sort of side games that we have once in a while. If one person's out, or one person wants to try GMing for the first time, so we may play a game or two and then kind of go back to it. Just trying to think if I have any other imparted knowledge that I can give that would be very helpful without kind of just rambling here. There's a lot of different types of monsters in here, races and such. So you'll be pleasantly happy to see that there's a variety of things, a variety of places to explore, and of course you get to fight a dragon at some point in this. And as far as the difficulty, it's challenging, I would say that. I think that's all I got. I really can't think of to say anything else that really comes to mind. I just kind of explained everything that I did with it and such. I played this online with a virtual tabletop map tools, so I have all the tokens and such for this. It's quite nice. A lot of different story-like themes. There's always an opportunity to find out about these people, their pasts and histories and such. So really, if you do like to have a lot of story in your games, this one is loaded with it, to where really you don't have to come up with very much of anything on your own, unless you were into that, as you saw that I easily did. It wasn't very hard. So if you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, feel free to let me know. So look forward to some more videos soon here. I got many more reviews to do. So thanks. Bye.